Hey everyone, welcome back to the Well-Oiled Mind, where we specialize in history, biography, psychology, and philosophy. Today we're going to tackle a topic that heats up the internet like a ghost pepper every 4 years. This quadrennial quagmire has been confusing junior high civic students as far back as anyone can remember. But mark my words, today that ends. That's right, my learned friends, I'm talking about the Electoral College. While we can't promise that by the end of this video you'll actually be smarter than an 8th grader, you will at least be able to nod intelligently the next time CNN's John King pulls up his magic wall. Well, it's election season once again. Totally awesome. That means lots of folks are asking, what in the world is this Electoral College thing? First things first. Unfortunately, it's not a campus where future presidents go to train. Though please God, somebody invent that and do it soon. No sir, the Electoral College is the system used in the United States to elect the president. It was created by the Founding Fathers as a way to hedge against the pitfalls associated with direct and unadulterated democracy or rule by the majority. In sum, the Electoral College helps protect against what's often called the tyranny of the majority. More on that in a bit. For now, close your eyes and picture this. It's the late 1780s. The Founding Fathers are urgently sitting around debating the various ways to choose a president. They didn't just want a straight-up popular vote because they were worried the most populated areas would dominate everything. Think about it. In 1790, Virginia represented almost 19% of the total population in the United States. Delaware, however, did not even register 2%. We have the same thing today. As of 2023, California has 39 million people in it, while Wyoming does not even have 1 million. The founders wanted to protect the interests of smaller states and the political minorities within them and their interests. To put it simply, the founders wanted to avoid what's called the tyranny of the majority, as we said a moment ago. This is where the biggest group always wins and the smaller voices get drowned out. Think about it. If the whole country was just voting based on the popular vote, candidates would probably focus all their time and energy on groups of big cities like New York, Los Angeles, Houston, etc. That leaves a lot of the smaller areas completely unheard. Electors assigned to each state ensure that those voices are heard and represented, and this last bit is really the key. So, how does the Electoral College actually work? Well, here's a simple rundown. Each state gets a certain number of electors based on its population. That number is the same number as its total representation in Congress. So, it's your state's senators plus those representatives from the House of Representatives. That means that states like California and Texas have lots of electors, while Wyoming has only 3. But at least every state is represented. When citizens vote in a presidential election, they're not actually voting directly for the candidate. Rather, they're voting for a slate of electors who have pledged to vote for that candidate if they win that state's popular vote. The candidate who wins a state usually gets all of that state's electoral votes, thanks to the winner-takes-all system used by nearly every state. There are 538 total electoral votes across all the states. So to win the presidency, a candidate needs a majority. The majority in this case is 270 to be exact. This forces candidates to campaign in a variety of places and consider all Americans, not just those in the big cities and not just those states that have lots of electors. So let's talk about why this system is actually kind of smart. Here's the deal. One of the best things about the Electoral College is that it encourages presidential candidates to be well-rounded in their campaigns. Imagine if we only used the popular vote. Candidates would mostly focus on places with huge populations. Smaller states like Montana, Vermont, or even the lovely state of Kansas, go Chiefs, wouldn't get much attention. It would be as if they didn't even exist in the race. But with the Electoral College, presidential candidates have to balance things out. They can't win just by appealing to voters in LA, New York, or Jacksonville. They have to win across different regions and take into account the diverse needs of people across the whole country. Political scientists like Robert Dahl have argued that this approach gives a voice to less populous regions and it protects their interests. Otherwise, those voices might go unheard in a purely popular system. In essence, the Electoral College was an early form of social justice that the U.S. still uses today. So, thanks to the Electoral College, candidates end up campaigning in places they might otherwise be tempted to ignore. They go to rural towns, they visit Midwestern diners, and they shake hands with folks on the East Coast as well as the West Coast. Of course, the Electoral College is not perfect. It does have its critics. They argue that sometimes it can feel undemocratic, especially if a candidate wins the popular vote but then loses the election. But here's a fun fact. Even though the Electoral College has some quirks like this, the college is designed to make sure that each state has a role in choosing the president. It prevents any one group or region from completely taking over. In 2020, for example, some of the closest states were decided by incredibly slim margins. Without the Electoral College, a few large states would have been decisive in deciding the entire election, and smaller areas would have been out of luck. But with the Electoral College, those smaller margins in individual states actually matter, and every state plays a part. Another thing to consider, the Electoral College actually protects the interests of political minorities. Political scientists like Martin Diamond and Tara Ross have argued that in a purely popular vote system, it's easy for the largest groups to dominate everyone else. But the Electoral College gives different regions and the political minorities within them a louder voice. So if you live in a smaller state or if you're part of a group that might not be the majority in a big city, the Electoral College helps ensure your vote has more weight. It keeps the playing field a little bit more balanced. And sure, it's not perfect, but it's not as chaotic as a whoever gets the most votes wins kind of system might be. So, is the Electoral College complicated? Yeah, it's a little bit complicated. Is it kind of weird? Yeah, it's a little bit weird too. But does it have its upsides? Absolutely. The system forces candidates to think about all Americans, even the folks in less populated states. And even though it may seem a little old school, it's a system designed to make sure that all voices count, big and small. All right, folks, that is the Electoral College in a nutshell. Let me know in the comments if you think it's time to switch to a popular vote or if you're on Team Electoral College. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more quirky breakdowns on big topics. Thanks for watching, and like always, remember, knowledge is its own reward.